Hi cooking cronies. Today I'm going to make a white sandwich bread. I made it a couple weeks ago and my family absolutely loved it. So I want to share this recipe with you. I got it from Taste of Homes and I do want to acknowledge them with this video. So it calls for 2 packages of active dry yeast, 2 cups of warm water, about 110 to 115 degrees, a half a cup of sugar, 2 teaspoons of salt, 2 large eggs at room temperature, a half a cup of oil. They call for canola. I didn't have canola, so I'm using vegetable oil, and 6.5 to 7 cups of all-purpose flour. Now I have pre-measured everything here just to save time, and in order to bring my eggs to room temperature, I put them in warm water, so that just kind of helps bring them from the refrigerator temperature down to room temperature. So let's get started. Okay, prior to beginning my recipe, I do heat my bowl just so that it's not ice cold and my yeast has a better activation. So according to the recipe, in a large bowl, which I have here, I'm going to dissolve my yeast in the warm water. And this is 110 degrees. And I'm going to add the sugar, which I have pre-measured, and it's a half a cup of sugar. And the salt. Oh, I did not pre-measure the salt. So let me grab that real quickly. And it calls for 2 teaspoons of salt. This is a very simple recipe and so delicious. If your family's like mine, they're sure going to enjoy homemade bread much better than the one you buy at the grocery store. So I've got the salt, I've got my eggs, and I did beat them a little bit just so that they would incorporate better. So I'm going to add all of this in. And using my paddle, which I need to locate, I'm going to mix this all together. I'm going to add the oil now, which is vegetable oil, and as I stated, the recipe did call for canola, but I didn't have canola, and the vegetable oil works just as well. Neither one of them have a flavor. I'll move the camera just so that you can see what's in there. You can see it's moving along really well. Now in my bowls here, I've made 2 different measurements of flour. Both of these have 3 cups in it because the recipe calls for 6.5 to 7. And the beginning of the recipe calls for 3 cups to be added to this mixture here. So I'm going to add the flour in there. I'm going to do it slowly so I don't get sprayed with flour. I do have this that I always forget to use. Now I love this recipe because I don't have a bread machine. I know that bread machines are pretty popular nowadays, but I'm old-fashioned and I prefer this technique. So I'm adding the 3 cups of flour that I pre-measured. And I'm going to let my mixer mix it until it's smooth and it's a soft dough. Then I'm going to change my attachment and put in my dough hook and let it knead the remaining flour in. Now, even though there's flour on the side of the bowl, I'm not going to scrape it just because this dough is so soft at this point that I really don't want to mess with that. So as I add the flour, as I change out from the paddle to my dough hook, it'll clean the sides of the bowl as I continue to add flour. My yeast that I always use is the Fleischmann's Active Dry Yeast, and I've been using this for years and I just love it. Therefore I buy it in the jar and keep it refrigerated, and it is excellent. All right, this almost looks like a batter. Not almost, it does look like a batter. You can see here. I'm going to take the paddle off now and exchange it. I will wipe it, scrape it with a spatula, and then insert the hook. All right, I'm going to put this in my sink. Okay, raise this back up. And I don't know if you noticed, but you could see the flour around the sides of the bowl, which you'll notice as I continue to add flour, it will pick up and clean the sides of the bowl as we go. Put the shield back on. Turn my mixer back on and begin adding more flour. I'm going to add the whole three more cups, so it'll be a total of 6 cups that will be in this mixture. Looking lovely. I'll move you closer to my beater here. See that? It looks gorgeous. I'm going to remove the shield. And now I'm going to begin to add more flour to this mixture because it's still too soft to handle. Turning it up a little bit. So the faster it goes, the better the cleaning of the bowl happens. So here we go. It's getting there. I'm going to turn it down to add the flour. I'm going to add just about half of a cup. Once it gets to a little better consistency where it's not so sticky, I'm going to put it onto my counter. I'm going to lightly flour my counter and then turn the dough onto it and then hand knead it for just a little bit. And then I'm going to put it back into a bowl, a greased bowl, and let it rest for 1 hour. Looking really good. So I'm going to turn off my machine and prepare my countertop to knead this dough. sprinkle some of the flour onto my dough, or onto my countertop, and then use a little bit on the dough hook just to release the dough that's on there. It's sticky. All right, I'm going to add some more flour here just to help me get it out. All right, we're going to empty this onto the floured countertop. I don't know about you, but there's no better smell than the smell of yeast when you're making bread. All right, as you can tell, it's pretty sticky. So I'm going to put some flour in there. I want to release as much of the dough as I can. So I'm smoothing this. Vicki Marie, who is my cooking crony partner, has been doing recipes on her own, which is fabulous because our schedules somehow haven't worked out where we can film and do things together. So hopefully sometime soon we will get together and do a recipe together for you. Okay, now I'm going to incorporate this dry dough that I pulled off out of the bowl, and I'm going to knead it. So I'm going to add a little more flour and begin kneading. And when I say kneading, you're going to grab from the outside and push and grab and push. Now it's really sticky, so you're going to be adding flour as you go. Okay, so you use the ball of your hand to push and knead, and I'm going to knead until it's soft and smooth. And I found the last time I did use a whole 7 cups. I used what remaining flour I had measured, pre-measured, on my countertop just to keep the dough from sticking. So keep that extra 7th cup handy so that you have it to continue to mix your dough, so your countertop's not stealing it from you. I have to tell you, the last time I made this, which was just a couple weeks ago, it makes 2 loaves, and I wanted to try out the new recipe, and I've been making bread ever since our St. Joseph table. This is a different kind of bread, however. It's not a sweet bread. And my family just devoured it. My mother-in-law was living with us, and she loved the bread. Requested it every morning with butter and jelly. I just liked it with butter. I'm not so much a sweet person. I like salty, but I do like Vicki's brownies when she makes them. Okay, it's getting to where I want it to be. It's still going to be a little sticky. It's going to be very soft, but it's where I want it to be. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to get a clean bowl and I'm going to grease it. I could wash out my bowl that I mixed everything in, but I like to put my mixer away, and I don't want to put it away until the bowl's clean, so I don't want to wait a couple hours or an hour to put my stuff away, so I'm going to put it in a different bowl. All right, this looks gorgeous. Okay, let's get another bowl out. and I'm going to put some vegetable oil in it and then put the dough into this bowl. So I probably use about a couple teaspoons of vegetable oil in the bowl, like so, and just move it around so it's covering the sides. And then I'll place the dough in here. And when I do, I'm going to put the dough in and then flip it, just so all sides of the dough have oil and they don't stick to the pan. So here we go. Beautiful dough, smells wonderful. And then I'm going to flip it. Woo. And then I'm going to put it in a warm spot, just so that it can double in size, which will be about an hour. So I'm going to cover it with some plastic wrap and set it aside. I'll be back in an hour. Okay, it's been an hour. Look at this beautiful dough. I'm going to uncover it, punch it down, and I'm going to divide it into 2 loaves. So I will need a little flour here on my board. So I'm going to take it out of the bowl. All right. Oh my gosh. There's nothing better than the smell of dough, in my opinion. Okay. All right, I'm going to use my bench cutter and cut this dough in half. Hopefully I'll get it even or close to it. And I'm going to set one aside and work on one. Okay, so I'm going to first make it into a ball. This gets the air bubbles out and makes for a prettier loaf. Okay, so now I'm going to flatten my dough. To make my loaf. And I'm going to bring in about a third, and then I'm going to bring in the corners. And I'm going to push it. And then I'm going to do it again. And push. And roll and push. And roll and push. I'm going to use a little more flour because it's sticking. And I'm going to continue to do this until I get to the size I want. Push. And you know I can see bubbles. So I'm going to pop them before I continue. So I don't want big air pockets in my bread. So I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to pinch the seam and the ends. And then I have my glass bread pans and I'm going to spray them with some cooking spray. Wipe the edges off. And then I'm going to place this loaf into the bread pan. Okay, my camera went off for a minute because a message came through, but I do have both of my both of the doughs in the bread pans. And I'm going to set them aside in a warm spot. So this is what they look like. I'm going to set them aside and they will raise for another hour, and I'll come back and we'll finish this process. Okay, it's been an hour and I have preheated my oven to 375 degrees. I'm now going to place the bread in the oven and it's going to bake between 25 and 30 minutes or until it's golden brown. So this is what it looks like. Let me bring this. This is what the bread looks like, raised. Beautiful. And I'll put it in my oven and I'll show you the product once it's done. So here we go. It is raised beautifully. Wow. Okay, I'll set the timer and we'll be back. Okay, I've got my 2 wire racks out. I'm going to put them on the counter, and then I will pull the bread out. It hasn't quite been 30 minutes, but I checked the oven and they look beautiful. So I'm going to take them out and I'll give you a little sneak peek here. See how gorgeous they look. All right, so I'm going to turn my oven off and pull the bread out. That's number 1. Oh goodness. I just cracked the top when I pressed on it, but it does look beautiful. And bread loaf number 2. All right, you can see how beautiful these are. I'll let them cool, and then we'll have fresh bread for dinner tonight. Enjoyed my bread recipe or taste of home bread recipe. It's delicious, I guarantee it. It's easy to make, and your family's going to love it. So if you haven't subscribed already to our Cooking Cronies YouTube channel, please do so. And give us a thumbs up and let us know what you think of the recipes. Have a great day. God bless.